Okay, folks, Don Lemon's story has taken a new turn. There's a superseding indictment. Let me show it here. Okay, this indictment replaces the earlier one. The grand jury approved this indictment as well. Now, the DOJ has added 30 defendants. They're all charged under the same two statutes, the KKK Act, which is a conspiracy crime, and the FACE Act, for which they're charged as principals and for aiding and abetting. Now, according to the court, the DOJ had represented that there were approximately 40 co-conspirators who would be indicted at a later date, and now we have 39 co-conspirators indicted by the grand jury. Okay, here's the docket report. And let's go to the new docket entries for this week. Okay, so there it is, the superseding indictment. And according to this, bench warrants were issued for all of the new defendants. Now, according to the DOJ, 25 were taken into custody and 18 already appeared before a magistrate judge, according to these docket entries. They were released on their own recognizance. And according to this one initial appearance record, the defendants are ordered to appear on a date to be determined in the future for their arraignments. Now, they'll enter a plea at that time. Probably not guilty for all of them. Will they be found not guilty? I wouldn't bet on it. Now, immediately after Don Lemon and his co-conspirators stormed City's church in Minneapolis in January, the DOJ had announced publicly that they would be seeking criminal charges against all the co-conspirators.
I intend to go after every single one of them. None of the people who invaded this house of God and harassed and frightened children and families is going to go unpunished.
And the DOJ kept its word. Now, at least a couple of the defense attorneys were taken by surprise, it seemed to me. Now, the reason I say that is because the case is high profile with now 39 defendants, and Don Lemon is a celebrity defendant. Now, most criminal cases in the federal system have just one defendant. Now, the DOJ in the last 2 weeks had asked the court to designate the case as complex, which would add 90 days to the speedy trial calendar. Now, earlier this week, before the 30 new defendants were added, the court denied the request for a complex case designation because the defense attorneys had said, well, it's only 9 defendants. That's not a huge number. Well, the superseding indictment changes things. 39 defendants is a huge number. The DOJ probably will file a new motion for a complex case designation, and the court probably will grant that motion. Now, going to the superseding indictments. Okay, the DOJ has identified 2 additional organizers of the conspiracy. Maybe we can call them leaders? Satara Diane Strong Allen and Monique Cassandra Collars Doty. The superseding indictment contains a lot more detail as well about how the conspiracy began, and those details suggest the new information was extracted from the cell phone of one of the existing leaders, Nikema Levy Armstrong. Okay, the superseding indictment describes overt act number 1 in support of the conspiracy. Defendant Armstrong received text messages from a local news correspondent in Minnesota that a quote-unquote ICE overseer is a pastor at City's church, a fact that Armstrong deemed outrageous. Okay, so at this stage, the superseding indictment states that the start of the conspiracy is January 17th, the day before they stormed the church, when a local news correspondent contacted Nikema Levy Armstrong. Now, that seems so backwards. It should be the activists who are supposed to contact the news media. But no, here the news media reaches out to the activist to tell her what's going on. Now, maybe anticipating what the activist will do with the information? So the local news in Minnesota isn't just reporting the news here, it seems, but potentially creating the news. And what are the implications of that for Don Lemon and his fellow alleged journalist and co-defendant, Georgia Fort? Now, we'll get to Don Lemon later. Now, overt act number 2. Armstrong conducted internet searches regarding the ICE officer and searched Midway Cub, which is Cub Foods, where they met the following day before the attack on the church. Okay, Overt Act number 3, Chantel Allen and Satara Diane Strong Allen conducted reconnaissance around the church and made a video documenting their observations, including the parking areas where they could pull up and noting, quote unquote, "My thoughts are to be able to clog up the alleyway right here." Okay, Overt Act number 4, Satara Diane Strong Allen sent the reconnaissance video via text to Armstrong. Overt Act number 5, Armstrong, Allen, and Monique Cassandra Collars Doty exchanged text messages regarding the contemplated operation and whether church members would be able to see their approach to the building. So these ladies are like Mission Impossible. Then all of these individuals posted the flyer made by Armstrong. Overt Act 12. Armstrong exchanged text messages with a person who advised her of Don Lemon's plan to travel to Minneapolis for the operation. An unidentified person. Now, maybe an emissary from Don Lemon? Okay, and this is when they're on their way to the church. Overt Act 22. While in his vehicle, Don Lemon mentioned to defendants Jerome D'Angelo Richardson and Michael Walker Butte, quote unquote, "I don't think we can go ahead. I don't think we can go inside, right?" And then answered his own question, "No, no, no." But defendants Lemon, Richardson, and Butte nonetheless entered the church shortly thereafter and joined his co-conspirators in the operation against the church. Okay, then, as the attack on the church proceeds, they're all screaming at congregants by this point. Overt Act 31, while inside the church, defendant Tiffany Lynn Dunlap personally participated in the disruptive takeover with the other defendants by holding up an anti-ICE sign and chanting, "ICE out," and "We have nothing to lose but our chains." Okay, so that was the new information added to the superseding indictment. Now, in my view, the most shocking new fact is the local news media was feeding information to the leader of the conspiracy, Nakima Levy Armstrong. Now, maybe that's how the anti-ICE protests work in general. When the data is extracted from Lemon's cell phone, we might get more details about that. Now, of the current co-defendants, 19 are women and 20 are men. And that's just based on their names. I had to guess on a few of them. Now, going forward, there's going to be a huge amount of discovery. Now, most of it will be electronically stored information, ESI. Now, when it was just the 9 defendants, which was just earlier this week, the court said that the case wouldn't be designated as complex with only 9 defendants, but did grant a request to extend the discovery deadline by 30 days, emphasizing the difficulties in producing ESI and the use of a filter team by DOJ to ensure that privileged information remains privileged. Now, the court also added about a month to the speedy trial calendar to account for the defense furiously filing motions in the case. And eventually, the defense strategy of furiously filing motions will work against it because, let's get real, now these defendants are on video committing the crimes. Now, the motions at most might delay the inevitable, but from what I've seen, there's no real reason for optimism for these defendants. They should all be trying to negotiate plea deals. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.